All right. It is Greg O. Gallagher with the Road to Ripped podcast, and I'm here with my good friends and a very special guest, Dell Farrell. She happens to be from the Down Under, Australia, Melbourne. Melbourne, correct? No, Brisbane.
The Gold
Where are you from? What is it?
The Gold Coast.
Okay.
It's pretty far from Melbourne. It's pretty
Okay.
much the furthest place from Melbourne.
Cool. Well, you know
But
what?
yeah, hey, what's up?
Yeah, good, good. So for people listening, Dell Farrell has been kicking ass in the fitness industry. She's got a lot of respect from a lot of the big names. She's been, just she's been like doing a great job training clients and coaching and attending some events. So you actually did a cool little trip around North America, and you hung with, Army Leg, Christopher Walker, John Romanello, quite a few people, huh?
Yeah, I was really lucky to pick some brains of some really smart people and go and train at some cool places. I went to Vegas for Fitness America weekend to compete in the bikini division. Then Army happened to be there while I was there, so we trained together and just talked about gym nerd stuff. Then I got to go to New York. I trained at Mark Fisher. I trained just with some really cool people. I hung out with Dick Talons a lot. He's been helping me with some business stuff. And then went and trained at some really cool places in California as well. So yeah, it was sort of a holiday, sort of work holiday.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was really good to get a lot of different insights.
Cool. And Dell and I, we did some coaching maybe a year ago. Was it a year ago?
Yeah, I think it was just probably about this time last year. Yeah, that's right.
Right, about this time last year. And so Dell's gone through amazing transformation. She used to struggle before. She got like caught up in a lot of different camps and the paleo stuff, the low carb, this and that. And she struggled to really get lean. And so we're going to explore how she kind of broke through, and she really like just finally, she reached the goal, like her dream body. She started to feel incredible. And you did a fitness competition. And you killed it. You looked amazing. And so we're going to be talking literally about everything that kind of led to finally reaching your goal, because you struggled for a while before, like tons of people, and you put in probably more work, more effort before when you're spinning your wheels than you do now, and now you're reaching your goal. So we're going to kind of uncover, just kind of untie that rope and see what were the major changes there, because this is very cool stuff. And this episode will apply for women and for men, just as well. The same concepts hold true. So let's start at the beginning of the story. When did you realize that you really wanted to get in shape, and how did that unfold?
Well, I first sort of really got into fitness after a breakup. So I was just going to gym. My friend was going at the time, and she's like, "Just come along." And then it was just really addictive. So I started just like the girly weight section of the gym, doing the little circuit, and I started some Muay Thai. I got a scoop on voucher for Muay Thai, for women's Muay Thai, so that's how I started that. But I was doing all this exercise, and I wasn't losing any weight. I probably was gaining weight, if anything. And so I was like, oh, I've got to change my diet. So I was doing all this online research.
Okay, so you were exercising a lot, but you didn't really change your diet at first.
Yeah, because I was vegan, so I was like, oh, I can't really eat less because there's not much that I do eat. But I did do, I did raw vegan for a while, and that was basically me just eating fruit, and I got pretty skinny, but I still wasn't happy with what I looked like. And then I got told, oh, it's because you don't eat enough protein and you have to eat animal products because otherwise you won't be able to build any muscle. So I repeatedly got told that, so I changed to eating everything, and I did a nutrition course, and I really enjoy the nutrition course, even though now looking back at it, everything I've had to unlearn because it was all like bro science, eat every 2 to 3 hours,
30 grams of
um,
protein.
don't eat carbs, don't eat sugar, this food's good, this food's bad.
Mm-hmm.
So it was basically like creating all this food anxiety for me. Of you've got to eat all the time, like, and always, it just made me always think about food and stressed. And I followed everything and I looked worse. And I was like, I'm doing everything right. And I was that girl that she exercises all the time. She eats healthy. Like, why isn't she like losing any weight? Why doesn't she look good? And it gets you really down. So I just developed a really bad mindset as well. And I was like, no, I have to eat cleaner, have to train more. So I started doing CrossFit. I was like, oh, I need to do weights. So I did CrossFit. And they're like, oh, it's because you're eating grains. You need to eat paleo. And I was always looking for the one thing that I was missing out on. So I was trying to find this one piece of information that would be my answer, whereas I just really needed to strip everything down and stick to doing less and just doing the important things, and not telling myself you'll be like that you're not good enough, but you'll be enough when you reach this goal, or like everything will, and putting my life on hold. Like I wouldn't go out, I wouldn't drink, all I would do was go to the gym. So I wasn't living a balanced life. And when I found flexible dieting and added carbs back in, everything happened for me. So everyone thought you have to have no carbs. Fight Gym told me no carbs. CrossFit said paleo and more fat, less carbs. The place where I did my personal training certification said that sugar was the villain, and if you have sugar, that's why you're going to get fat, not calories. So as soon as I found flexible dieting and realized that the amount of training I was doing, you need carbs, and that you didn't necessarily need to do 5 or 6 days a week, then everything got easier. I was less stressed, less burnt out, and that's when I really started to see some really good fat loss results.
Yeah, and I don't even think that people that train a lot should eat, like, I don't think just people that train a lot should eat carbs. I think, most people, even if you're not that active, getting a good portion of your calories from carbs can be very beneficial. And so, I mean, like you, for example, if you were to stop training for a month and go on a no-carb diet, you'd probably still feel miserable, Yeah.
If my carbs drop below 100 grams, I'm a bitch.
You're a beyond.
Like, I'm so moody. If even like my whole prep, the lowest my carbs went were 100 grams, and
that was right us probably. That was when it was getting a little bit shaky.
Yeah. and my mood, like I was just like, I don't even want to do this anymore. It's not even working. I hate my life. And then as soon as I had a high carb day, I'm like, oh wait, that was just the low carbs talking.
Yeah, it's amazing how your mood changes. I mean, when I used to do the low carb dieting, and I wasn't that great at it. Like I would maybe do 4 or 5 days really low carb, and then that 5th or 6th day, I'd like literally, I just eat carbs, and I just feel my body like change. I feel like my mood change. And I'd go from like so tense, so kind of on edge, to like totally relaxed, and it's like, wow, this feels really cool. But that was just going from like kind of one extreme to like going like up to like 400 grams of carbs or so. And so, when Dell was talking about how when she started to eat carbs again, like everything started to click. That's not to say that like we're anti-fat, anti-protein, and that high carbs are the only way, because she wasn't really going from low carb to very, very high carbs. Very high carbs is like 55-60% of your calories from carbs, which is very high. That's what like a lot of ultra endurance athletes will do. And so you probably only went up to like 40% carbs-ish, around there.
Yeah, I cut down, like I was having excessive amounts of protein.
Right. Yeah.
So I was always told, you got to have protein every 2 to 3 hours. Protein. So every meal had to have protein in it. And I was probably having like around 180 grams, which is
That's
completely unnecessary.
that's a, that's
Um,
that's way over your body weight. Yeah, that's a lot. That's very
yeah,
a lot. Like that's what like most guys that are like trying to build muscle or trying to cut that are like pretty big. They're probably they'll get by. They'll be perfect with 180. And so you were hitting that. And so then you probably drop your protein down considerably.
yeah. So I stuck to around a gram per pound of body weight,
Hmm.
and because I wasn't like at my highest, I was 32% body fat. So a gram per pound of body weight was plenty of protein for me.
Yeah.
And when I stuck to that, I just felt like I had more energy because I wasn't having excessive amounts of protein and no carbs. I was having a moderate amount of protein and a moderate amount of carbs, and I was no longer overeating fat. So I started to drop weight really easily, and because I was exercising and I was weight training, I just almost immediately looked better, and weight loss was effortless. As long as I stuck to those numbers, then I would hop on the scale or I would try on clothes, and the results were there.
So that's very interesting. So at first, you started to do different sort of cliche diets. You do like the paleo thing, and then they would tell you, just if you're having low energy, just eat more and more fat, eat more coconut oil, eat more nut butters, and so that is a recipe for fat gain because fat is a very dense macronutrient. So if you look at foods that are high in fat versus foods that are high in carbs, well, you can actually eat a lot more carbs, a lot more food volume from carbs to get the same amount of calories as fat. That's because fat has 9 calories per gram, protein and carbs have only 4. So when you're hungry and you're low energy and you're told to eat nut butter, you're told to eat more coconut oil, you're told to throw 3 tablespoons of fat into your meat, or just put butter on tons of lather butter on your veggies and stuff. Well, now it's very easy to overconsume those calories just because you don't think how much you're getting. It seems trivial but it just adds up. Like just a spoonful of oil is 120 calories. So the paleo community, because they're cutting out carbs, they want to make up the energy from somewhere, and then they use fat. And if you're not really careful, you're going to overdo it. And so that's probably what happened with you. And then the fat really, see, for you and me, for example, and for a lot of people, because we feel good getting a moderate amount of carbs, most people kind of fall into the moderate category. Some people like really high carbs, some people like really, really low carbs, but most of us are in that middle ground. And so when we force ourselves to go low carbs, we don't feel as good filling up on fat. So I did this too, where I was trying to diet on low carb, and I pretty much just end up eating a lot more calories than I needed to because I didn't feel satisfied. I'm not getting that feeling of really satisfaction after a
Yeah,
meal.
it's like you don't get the serotonin or whatever. Like you
Serotonin.
can never feel satisfied, and so you eat more fat. But it's way easier to overeat fat than it is to overeat carbs, especially when you're having things like fruits and veggies and oats and grains, like those kind of things. Especially when you're training, like they're a preferred fuel source for your body, so you're going to burn that up way easier, and it's going to support muscle growth. Whereas if you overeat fat, it's going to be stored as fat a lot more easy. So, yeah, I definitely enjoy fats in my diet, but I don't try to cut carbs and eat as much fat as I want anymore. Definitely.
Yeah. Perfect. And so that's really an important step to make, is that we all start somewhere, and so we might start with some diet, and then it becomes very rigid and maybe doesn't work that well for us, and then so we start to realize, okay, this isn't what is required to get lean. What it takes to get lean and build a great body is getting the right numbers, so getting the optimal amount of calories, proteins, fats, and carbs, and then setting those up in the most enjoyable way. So it doesn't make sense to go really, really low in fat, because then food doesn't taste very good. If your body's very deficient in fat, you're just not going to feel that full and satisfied. And same thing with carbs. It doesn't make sense to cut out all those carbs. If Dell, for example, if you're going to cut down and drop fat on 1,700 calories per day, then you're going to want to play around with those numbers to make them as enjoyable as possible. So if you're eating, you're trying to eat 50 grams of carbs, it's just going to make everything more miserable. And so for a guy listening, he might be cutting down at like 2,000, 2,200 or more calories, and like you have room to work with. Why consume like literally either very, very low fat, very low carb? But the problem is that in the fitness industry, and this is what you learn, quickly, is that people want to demonize something. They want to point the finger and say fat makes you fat, carbs make you fat, sugar makes you fat, fruit makes you fat, whatever it is. And so by demonizing them, demonizing a certain food group or food, then all of a sudden the solution is, oh, just cut out these foods, then you'll lose fat, and that doesn't work. It doesn't work in the long run. So yes, when you start to focus on the numbers, eating the different ratios that you best enjoy, usually a balanced approach, all of a sudden it's like, wow, this dieting stuff isn't that hard. And then when you free yourself from the myth that you have to eat every 2 hours, 3 hours, eat 30 grams of protein per meal, then you get rid of all these myths, which are just kind of sublimated on marketing. What sounds pretty on paper, what sells more supplements, what sells more of this and that. Well, when you get rid of all those rules, it's like this isn't that hard. I can even skip breakfast. I can eat like a big lunch, a big dinner, a snack here, and wow, I hit my calories, and that was easy. And so it's amazing when you go through that transition in terms of what works best for you. And so, do you want to share some insight on kind of some nutrition tips that you use with your clients, and specifically for women? What do you find? Really really works for women? What kind of tips and stuff?
Well, first of all, they have to unlearn all the things that have been drilled into them. Like, you have to eat breakfast, you have to cut carbs, you have to detox, you have to get rid of these toxins in your body, you can't have chemicals, you have to have unprocessed foods. The first thing is just forget all that, and if you stick to the fundamentals, we all agree on the fundamentals. So balance. Stress is really bad for diet adherence in most cases. So if you're stressed, like, women just tend to overeat more, even if it's just a little bit at each meal. And the stress of dieting, plus the stress of thinking that foods are going to kill them, or carbs are going to make you instantly fat, it's not good mentally. And it's the main thing is not placing moral values on foods, so good and bad. Just getting them to track and to be aware that it's not a matter of good and bad foods. It's these foods are more filling and more satiating, and these foods you're more likely to overeat because they taste good and they're high in fat and carbs together, and so they're more calorie dense. Mm-hmm. And so you can think that you're eating the same amount of food, but if you have something that's higher volume for the same amount of calories, you're less likely to overeat. So rather than saying these foods are good, these foods are bad, say stick to the foods that fill you up and satisfy you. So if you can be satisfied from having frozen yogurt or something sweet, and you can have a moderate amount, then that might be the best food for you to diet on.
Yes, this is a great point. And well, yeah, sorry, finish your point.
If you say, okay, you're not allowed chocolate, it's like saying, okay, don't think about the pink elephant. What are you going to think about the pink elephant? So if you say don't eat this food, they're going to just think, even if it's something that they hate, they're going to think, oh, I can't have that, I can't have that. And it's always, they have like a deprivation mindset, almost like I'm sort of depriving myself of these things. Whereas you say to them, you can have anything, but how's that going to make you feel if you have a cheeseburger and that's like half your day's calories because it was full of fat, and now you have to eat like a rabbit for the rest of the day. So that's one side of it, and then the other side really is getting them in a more habit-based approach, rather than I want to be this goal weight. I get them to say, well, let's look at today. Let's not look at tomorrow. Let's not look at next week, because there's always something that you can do today that is going to move you closer towards your goals. So if you start focusing on mastering the day, then you start to enjoy the journey more, because you can enjoy every day and have like a small win every day. So maybe I'll say, okay, your goal is just to have only home cooked food and not to eat fast food, so you can track everything. Or maybe it's just today you're just gonna, your one goal is to get to the gym. So if they can, put a little tick next to something every day and build on top of those habits, so once they master that and they can build on another one, they start really enjoying the process, and it's not a chore to stick to the diet or to stick to your exercise program, because it becomes a game and you can win every day, rather than putting your happiness on hold and saying, I'll be happy when I reach this weight, or I'm putting myself through this suffering for abs or for some vain goal.
Yeah, that's well said. And just starting back at your beginning point, it's like, yes, find the foods that fill you up the most. So let's forget about all these rules. This is a bad food. This is a good food. What is going to be the most enjoyable for you to stick to on your diet plan? And so there's some girls, actually there are a lot of girls who are like, you know what, like I just need to eat like a couple pieces of chocolate to feel satisfied. And so if they eat those couple pieces of chocolate, boom, they're gone. They don't even have to think about food for a while. But then they're told, no, don't eat any chocolate, or don't have that frozen yogurt. And then they have almonds instead. And almonds, sure, they're healthy, but if they're trying to fill up and satisfy themselves on almonds and they're not getting that feeling, they might just eat like a whole bag of almonds with 600 calories when they just need that 150 calories of just chocolate to satisfy them. And so it's important for everyone to realize, let's forget about the rules. If the goal is to get lean, the goal is to be able to eat less without killing yourself. Eat less while enjoying the process. We're not trying to get there in a second. We're not trying to get to the goal line tomorrow. Take time, and as Dell was saying, it's important to accept yourself now. So if you're trying to get to some goal to make yourself feel happy in the future, well, that's an illusion of the mindset, because now you're just now the entire journey to your goal is going to be brutal, because you're going to keep telling yourself, I cannot be happy now. I am not unhappy. I'm not enough now. In order for me to feel satisfied, fulfilled, I need to be there. And so it makes the whole journey miserable. Give yourself permission to be happy now. You know what? Maybe I'm not maybe I'm not like, maybe I don't have like a perfect body right now, or my definition of a perfect body, but that's okay, because I'm working at it. I'm focusing on better nutrition. I'm focusing on improving my training, and it's coming. So these are very important realizations to make. And Dell, how did you, because it's easy to say to accept yourself and love yourself, but how did that unfold for you?
Well, when I started coaching with you, you told me to get the audiobook, Practicing the Power of Now by
Yes.
Eckhart Tolle. So I got that on Audible, and I just would listen to a little bit every day, and it just sort of all, like I started looking into more of that, like a little bit of meditation, and looking at all these successful people recommending it, and just practicing being happy in this moment. So I struggled with like anxiety somewhat in the past, and I just found that anxiety is just worrying about all these things in the future that might happen, and instead of worrying about, am I on the perfect diet, am I exercising enough, am I exercising too much, is this right, worry about it when it becomes a problem. And
Right.
instead of keep thinking, oh, what if this, and keep changing from, I was a program hopper, I changed from one program to another, CrossFit to Muay Thai, and I wanted to do everything, because what if the one thing that I was doing wasn't the right thing?
Mm-hmm.
But doing less and just simplifying everything, and just thinking, well, can I do anything about that right now, or should I worry about it later? So you procrastinate on your worrying instead of thinking you always have to change.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's exactly right. And so yeah, the audiobook Practicing the Power of Now really helps, because I mean it's one thing to say, oh, just be present, stop living in your head, stop projecting your happiness in the future, or stop like getting anxious because your attention is way far ahead than where it needs to be. It's easy to say that stuff, but to actually truly become present, truly be able to pour your attention into this moment right now, and then kind of work through that is a lot. It's easier said than done. And so being able to like listen to totally guide you through these different meditations and the teachings actually helps instill that and infuse it into you. And so that's why I get a lot of my clients to do that program, and it really helps increase their adherence and increase their success rate. And so I mean, really, what's going on there is a number of things, but one of which is that we like as Dell was saying, that anxiousness and that stress, like stress from dieting, stress from just that stress is it's being here in this moment but wanting to be somewhere in the future. So maybe you want to maybe you're 35% body fat and you're a girl and you want to be 18% body fat, or you want to fit into that whatever it is, that size 4, that size 8, it doesn't matter. But when you're like right here, but you just want to be there so bad, it creates that tension. It creates that stress because right now is not enough. I need to be there, and that's not what is going to really make the journey as enjoyable as possible. You know how people say, oh, to succeed, it was really hard work. I had to kill myself. It was grinding. It was brutal. That's because their way of succeeding is I have to be there. I have to be there. I have to be there. This is not enough. This is not enough. This is not enough. But there's other people that literally, it's like effortless. They just literally, their journey from where they are now to their goal is filled with, joy, ease, and sure, some of it is challenging, but the overall journey flows with so much more ease. And that's because they're fulfilled in this moment. They're enough right now. They accept everything that they have to do, and they accept how they look right now. And that's a big thing I see with my clients, and that's why when I'm working with clients, I try and harp this at them, because as soon like if I get the impression right now that this person is sick of being overweight, sick because they don't have those abs, I'm like, okay, this is gonna be hard. They're just gonna stress the whole time, and all that stress, like you said, Dell, especially with women dieters, is that stress makes them want to eat more. It makes them want to, and so it kills them. And so when you can take away that stress and be like, hey, you know what? Sure, you're not at your goal right now, but that's okay. That is okay. Give yourself permission not to be there right now, and start to enjoy the process. And that's an amazing
challenge. Everyone's like, no, just give me the exact foods that I have to eat and a meal plan. I know I can stick to it, and I just want to do everything perfect. But aiming for perfect is another recipe for disaster, because they tell themselves, yeah, I'm going to stick to this meal plan perfect, and they do it, and because they've done it before on a meal plan, and they stuck to it for 3 days, and then if the meal plan was so perfect, why could you only stick to it for 3 days? And why do you need me write you a different one? Because you are too impatient to realize that the slow progress is going to get you there faster. Because if you go as strict as you can and try to do everything perfect, as soon as you slip up, if you have this idea of perfect, as soon as you slip up, it's like, oh no, I'm a failure, I have to start all over again, or I'll start on Monday. And it's just like a downward spiral. So
Yeah.
you just stop this, oh, I've got to start again, I've got to start again, I've got to find this new approach, I'm just going to go on the internet and Google the fat loss secrets and find the one thing that has been hidden from me, and then I'll know how to lose fat. But really, it's just being patient, because we already know, we just need to be patient, sort of thing.
Right. I mean, there's no need to be perfect. What you're going for is getting that weekly improvement. So, if you drop a little bit of fat each week, bam, then you've killed it. That's what you're going for. So people just want to have, like, they want to, like, just steamboat it in there, and the faster and more aggressive and rigid you try and make make this diet, like the more brutal it's going to be. Like you said, it only lasts 3 days, and so the idea isn't just to kill yourself. It's like, let's get positive improvement. Let's see some results, but let's make it enjoyable. And so if you're improving each week, you're killing it. And so for girls, when they start focusing on making the nutrition more enjoyable, the stress isn't there. They're able to stick to it, and their macros are dialed in, so they're steadily dropping some fat. And they're also, we haven't really touched upon strength training, but strength training is very important for men and women. The beautiful thing is with women, most women you talk to, they're like, okay, I don't want to put on a lot of muscle. I don't want to be muscly, and that's a fair point. Most women don't want to, but strength training is not going to make women bulky. But I know guys, you hear that all the time. Women have like 10 times less testosterone than men, so they can't really build that much muscle. But it's not even that.
It's really as well. Like they think that it's the muscle. They're like, yeah, the muscle makes you look bulky, but this sounds harsh, but it's usually the fat on top of the muscle. So you build the muscle, but you haven't lost the fat yet. So yeah, you look bulky, but if anyone's seen a bikini competitor or a fitness competitor who, like a natural athlete who weight trains all the time, they do not look bulky. They don't look bulky in clothes. Like everyone was like, "What are you doing to lose weight?" When I was losing weight for my bikini comp, and I was lifting weights. I was doing minimal cardio. I was doing less cardio than I ever had before because I had to cut out Muay Thai because I had too many bruises. And everyone's like, "What are you doing?" "Oh no, that can't be right." And as soon as after I competed, they're like, "Oh, you're gonna stop lifting weights now, though, aren't you? Because you don't need to get any more muscly." And I'm like, "Well, don't you understand that that's what works in the first place? You build the muscle, and then everything looks tighter." I've always had cellulite on the back of my legs until I started doing like proper weight training.
Oh, you always have cellulite on the back of the legs until you started doing the strength training? Interesting. Why do you think that is?
Because I had too much fat on the back of my legs and I didn't have enough glutes.
Well, handling that issue.
Sorry?
Yeah, this is stuff that you hear girls talk a lot about. And something that some women are self-conscious about. And so yeah, strength training is definitely an important tool. Like yes, you need to drop the fat, but if you strengthen the muscles, you firm them up, they're going to look better. And that's like the bottom line. What people need to understand is that really building a great physique is about two things. It's about stripping off the body fat, and that's primarily done through nutrition. Dell, when she first started, she was doing tons of exercise, tons of cardio, but she was gaining weight because her nutrition wasn't dialed in. So that's like the foundation. And then the second piece, which is very important, is strength training. Because here's the thing, like let's say a girl wants to drop 20 pounds of fat, and let's say she does a lot of cardio and a lot of strict dieting, she'll drop that 20 pounds, but it won't be 20 pounds of fat. It'll be like a good chunk of fat, good chunk of muscle. If you want to make sure you primarily just drop fat, you need to maintain your muscular strength. You need to strength train. And if girls are new to strength training, what they'll find is that they might actually increase some muscle as they strip off the fat. So let's say they drop 20 pounds on the scale, maybe they drop 25 pounds of fat and they gain 5 pounds of muscle that looks good, that gives their body more shape, more tone, more firmness, so that when they drop that weight, when they get to their goal size, they don't look kind of skinny with a little bit of stubborn fat. They actually look, lean and fit and toned, which is a great thing. So you'll actually lose more fat if you strength train on a diet than if you just do diet and cardio, because the strength training will ensure that you maintain the muscle, so the fat that you're losing, or the weight that you're losing rather, is body fat. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think before when I was doing 6 days of training a week, and I was doing CrossFit and I was doing Muay Thai. I was just doing too much, and that was when I was trying to go low carb, and I was actually losing muscle. Because we had like the medical grade bioimpedance scanner, so it tells you your body fat and things like that. So it's quite accurate. And every time I get on, I'd be like, what? Because I thought, oh, everyone would say, oh, you are gaining weight because it's muscle. But I was losing muscle and I was gaining fat because I my protein was high, but I wasn't having enough carbs, and I was stressed. So all the training, I was just sort of running myself into the ground. As soon as I upped my carbs, it was so much easier to put on muscle and so much easier to burn fat, and because I could train harder because I felt better.
Mhm.
And I found like just because I wasn't as fatigued, I would be more active during the day, just um, walking around more, moving more, so you'd burn more even on a day you weren't training.
Right. Yeah. If
And
you're eating carbs, you're gonna muscles will hold more glycogen, and that's lean mass. And if a lot of times if you go really really low in carbs, especially for girls, and you're training a lot, is that your cortisol levels will go up, your stress hormones, because when your carbs are low, you're not getting that insulin release. And insulin, in the context of a calorie deficit, is fine. It's actually beneficial for retaining muscle. And so if you don't have that insulin release, insulin helps counteract cortisol. So when you're very low carb, training a lot, cortisol is chronically elevated, and that can trigger more water retention. And I don't really recommend ever doing bioelectrical impedance body fat testing because it's so inaccurate. Like I've had
yeah,
clients freak out because they're like, Greg, I'm up 4% body fat, and I'm like, well, how'd you measure it? And they're like, bioelectrical impedance. I'm like, okay, stop, never throw that away. Never measure your body fat with that again, because the client was like, had an inch and a half down on his waist. His strength was up. His pictures reflected very strong fat loss, and he was freaking out because this scale just told him you gained fat, and people hold that to be true. I remember when Chris Walker and I were in LA, we went to go kind of just talk to a celebrity trainer there, Grant Roberts, and he was like promoting this bioelectrical impedance test like it was just incredible, like it was like new technology, like it was like literally brought to us from like out of space aliens. He was like, this is like so effective, and I went on it and I was 19%, and he was like looking at me and he was like, yeah, you got to drop some fat, and I had a full-on six-pack, and I didn't want to like get in an argument. I was just like, yeah, okay. I'm just like, okay, like I knew it wasn't true, like I knew it was gonna my lights just went off. I knew it was gonna score me really really high. And Chris went on, he was like 9%, which makes sense because any sort of bioelectrical scale, literally, it looks at your height, it looks at your weight, and then gives you a body fat. Like I've played around with it. I've gone on the scale and I've put my height from 5'10" up to like 6'1". My body fat's way down. It literally just looks at your height and your weight, and it creates a body fat number based on realistically what you would be. And so Chris is 6'4", and so he's taller, and like me, for example, if I was 6'4", I'd be about 225. 7 times 6 is about 40, 42 or something. I haven't had to do math in so long, and so
I don't know. I'm just
40
smiling and nodding.
plus 180. So, I would get like 220, 225, and Chris was like 190, so he got like 9%. And then when I did a bod pod, I was like got 4.8%, which is lower than it actually was, but yeah. So yeah, don't do bioelectrical impedance.
Yeah, a friend of mine actually, he's got it done like 2 or 3 times, and every time he's got like 4%, and he's not cutting. He doesn't like do bodybuilding or anything. He's not cutting, and he's got 4%, and I'm like, yeah, pretty sure you're not 4%.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think like it depends on the machine as well. Some go off more points, but yeah, I think best way to measure, especially for girls, I say don't weigh yourself. Go off like tape measurements, or how your clothes fit, or photos. Don't go off looking in the mirror, because you can, I swear to God, you can look exactly the same like 2 days. The first day you look in the mirror and you're like, God damn it, I'm so fat, and like I feel terrible, I need a cut. And then the next day you're like, yeah, I'm looking pretty good, but you look exactly the same. But it's just like, you have one day you're in a good mood and you're like, yeah, I look good, and the next day you're like, I hate everything.
Yeah, well, that's why it's good to have, especially for women, it's good to have process-oriented goals. So instead of trying to hit like a new weight, trying to look better in the mirror, it's like focus on sticking to your nutrition plan. Focus on adhering to your training program. Focus on improving your strength in the gym. Focus on those sorts of things, which takes the pressure off of how you look, takes the pressure off of the scale, and then it reduces that stress, and so it makes everything easier. And so let's kind of wrap up here, and let's finish off and talk a bit about exercising. What exercises do you find like really effective, and any girls listening that are strength training, like what kind of tips would you have for them?
Well, like I said before, I did CrossFit for quite a while, which I don't recommend because it's constantly varied. You never really get the chance to get stronger at anything. Form isn't as important, and a lot of it's high reps and no rest in between. So you do a high rep exercise and then you do a sprint, and then everything's mixed in together. Whereas when I did your program, it was focusing on the things that I wanted to improve on. So I was sort of smaller on the top and bigger hips. So by focusing on getting stronger pull-ups and doing more back and shoulders, I could get sort of more of an hourglass shape rather than just focusing on losing weight. I was focusing on body composition. And then getting like glute exercises, getting stronger and everything. So heavy weights, low reps, and doing the reverse pyramid training. So I actually got stronger at everything rather than with the higher reps before and the lower weight. I never really got much better, or if I did, progress was very slow. We track your progress. I think if you're a girl and you're weight training, make sure you're getting a little bit stronger every time you're in the gym, and once you're stronger on those exercises, then adjust them rather than doing a different thing every time. Mm-hmm. And don't be scared to lift heavy, because a lot of these, every person that I seem to train has just been told 10 to 12 or 12 to 15 reps, 3 sets, every exercise. And they're given these generic approaches, but what if the girl has bigger legs and really small on top, or if she's really has well-developed lats and shoulders, but she has no butt and she's really small on the bottom? Like, you have to train towards your strengths and your weaknesses rather than just having a generic program and just hoping for the best.
Right, yeah, that kind of unfolds later down the road. Like someone that's new to strength training, they might not have to worry about that right away, because those are things that happen down the road. Because some people might have dominant hips, dominant shoulders, so that when they follow a balanced routine, something's going to grow faster. For me, it's like my chest grew quite fast, and my back. That responded very, very easily. And so I had to like kind of focus more on the shoulders and arms. But so yeah, that's something that like someone that's new, they don't have to worry quite about that. It will happen eventually. Those are some really, really great points. And yeah, like Dell was saying, you need to improve on the exercises and get stronger, but that doesn't mean you have to add weight to the bar each workout. You very well may stick with the same weight for a few weeks and try and increase your reps, and then when you hit a certain threshold, then you'll increase the weight. Because if you try and increase the weight every workout, you're gonna plateau quite quickly. So that's something that's important to keep in mind. And as Dell was saying, like most women, they'll do like the 10 to 12 reps, 10 to 15 reps. Well, if you really want to have like firm muscles, you want to focus on what is known as myofibrillar hypertrophy. So there's 2 types of ways the muscles can grow, and usually like no matter what you do, it's going to be a little bit of both, but one will be the more powerful driver. And so when you actually strength train with challenging weights, in that 5 to 8 rep range, and you take longer rest periods, give yourself 2 minutes, 3 minutes to rest, well, you're actually going to be increasing myofibrillar hypertrophy, which is actually an increase in the size of the contractual filaments of the muscle. Conversely, if you do like the very high reps of short rest periods, like that pump training, you're actually increasing like the sarcoplasm, the fluid in the muscle, which gives your muscles a fuller, more pump look. So if you're after a compact, fit, firm body, it makes sense to, do a lower volume, so you don't have to do tons of sets and tons of reps, but just try and get stronger at those with a couple sets, 2, 3 sets, good rest time, and that will get your muscles a lot more firm. So that's why actually a lot of my programs are focused more on that myofibrillar training. And people like to talk about, like, they like to kind of say, sarcoplasmic is 8 to 12, myofibrillar is like, 4 to 6, and there's a crossover. And so most people don't talk about rest times, where if you're doing 8 reps, but taking like a long rest period, that's still going to be more myofibrillar. Conversely, if you're doing like 5 reps but resting 30 seconds, that's going to be more sarcoplasmic. So the general, so my approach is hitting that 5 to 8 rep range, because that maximizes muscle fiber recruitment. Whereas if you're doing 2 reps, you're getting about the same amount of muscle fiber recruitment, but you're not getting the same amount of time under tension, the same amount of volume. So like the sweet spot's 5 to 8, and then if you want to focus on building more density, take longer rest periods. And
don't be afraid to rest in between sets, because
yeah.
Before I was like, oh no, I have to rest 30 seconds, 40 seconds, and every girl that I seem to train is like, oh, what? I can't stop. Like, I have to be sweating. I have to be moving, and they're like, what are we doing now? Like, and I'm like, no, like, you can rest it's fine to rest 2 minutes. Like, if you want to get strong, especially, you're not gonna get strong if you're doing one exercise and then doing the next and then doing the next. How do you expect to? It's like saying I'm gonna get better at sprints, but I'm gonna do sprints with no rest in between. Well, that's not really sprinting, is it?
Yeah. So I mean, yeah, that's great. So really, your fitness, your training is really about increasing strength, getting stronger, and your nutrition is really about promoting fat loss, and supporting your training. And so stuff like circuits and CrossFit and P90X, it's just an inferior way to strength train, because exercise is not going to be the most powerful tool to dropping body fat. It's always going to be nutrition, especially in women. In women, what we see, and the research highly reflects this, is that when women work out, they get an almost proportionate increase in appetite. So when a girl does an hour on an elliptical, she's going to get more hungry than a guy that does an hour on the elliptical, like proportionate to their appetites. So if women are relying completely on exercise, they're just going to eat more food, or they're just going to be miserable because they're going to get hungry and they're going to try and restrict themselves, and then eventually there's somewhere they're going to give in. We only have so much willpower. And so, really, if you focus on getting the right nutrition, then focusing on getting stronger, you're just going to be way more productive than trying to do all these circuits and stuff, because you're trying to burn fat and build muscle at the same time. It doesn't go very well. So I mean, what girls really want to, we covered a lot of stuff, but for everyone listening, stop trying to find that perfect diet. Stop trying to like stick to all these crazy rules. Focus on proper nutrition. Getting that right. If your goal is fat loss, eating in a good deficit, but getting a balance of fats and carbs. Give yourself permission to eat a balanced amount. Stop obsessing. If you want to eat 2 meals a day or 6 meals a day, that's up to you. Have that choice, but find out what's most enjoyable. If there's certain foods that satisfy you, gravitate to the foods that really make the diet as enjoyable as possible. And you might be thinking like, oh, well, I love Pop-Tarts. I'm just going to eat Pop-Tarts all day. Well, if you have to eat at a deficit, eat less calories than your body burns, and you're eating Pop-Tarts, well, you're going to be really hungry, because Pop-Tarts are not going to be as filling as steak and potatoes.
It's a lot easier to overeat something like Pop-Tarts.
Much easier to overeat. And maybe if you have 1 Pop-Tart a day and you're like, yay, that's cool. That's completely cool. But when people think about flexible dieting and fit your macros, they think of one crazy extreme, which is people just eating Pop-Tarts and getting ripped. And that's not true. Most people that do the flexible dieting stuff, 80%, 85%, they're like, gravitating to really really nutritious foods, and then they're giving themselves the freedom to eat other things. And that's really good for women, because women especially, they like have those, most girls I talk to, they have like that one thing they want to eat. Like and if they can't have it, they're gonna freak out. They're gonna go crazy. Like, if I can't have that chocolate or frozen yogurt, and I'm the same way too, and a lot of other guys are the same way. What was that?
Usually it's wine, red wine. I'm like, I just need my glass of wine at the end of the day.
Yeah. So that's actually so yeah, you can drink wine. You just got to fit it into those numbers. And so when girls stop stressing about trying to do this fad diet, and guys as well, trying to follow these, all these rules, it becomes much easier. What's the most enjoyable way for you to, hit your calories? And sure, you're gonna have to track stuff for the beginning, but eventually you can just eyeball it, and it takes the stress out. And for strength training, yes, strength training is important. We need to strength train. We need to get stronger. But you don't have to live in the gym. Just go to the gym a few days a week, 3 days a week. Find a few different exercises, and just work on those and improve on those. And you want to work your whole body, and keep things balanced. And for the lower body, most girls, they want to have like that nice butt and sort of slim but fit legs, and so stuff like that. The best way to go about that is doing exercises that really hit the butt the hardest. Forward lunges, pushing off your heel, step ups, some box squats, like when you squat back onto a box, really use your hips. Some different deadlift variations. Those will really bring up the butt and trigger the perfect amount of muscle onto the legs. And anyways, actually, Dell and I are actually been working for the past quite a few months on a women's program, because we want to kind of, there's nothing really out there that kind of gives this approach to girls. There's very little. A program that literally helps girls get the body they want, that slim, fit, toned look, so they're not just trying to gain a lot of, because girls have a harder time gaining muscle, but they can still gain more than they want. So we're doing like a routine that focuses on building that fit, feminine, toned body with the really nutrition to make fat loss really, really easy. Handling the motivational stuff, all that stuff. So that will actually be out, in end of January this year, 2015. So that's really, really it's really big news. If you guys want to learn more about that, I'll probably put like if you go to kinobody.com/women's program, I will leave more information there, or possibly do an opt-in if you guys want to get notified when it's ready. Is there anything else you want to add on that, Del?
I think that's about it. I think just the key takeaway is just focus on one little easy thing at a time that you can do. So don't think that you have to go away after today and change your whole approach. Just take a reasonable approach, and just change one little thing, and then that'll become easy. And then just change one more thing and have a priority. So priority means one thing to focus on, rather than thinking that you have to do everything at once. So just make it easy, and it'll be more enjoyable.
Exactly. Yeah. And Dell and I were so excited about doing this women's course, because I've had for the last 3 years, I've had girls email me every week being like you have programs for guys, but when is the girls program going to be out? Like, I want a program for women, and I'm like, okay, I have to get this out. And there's like small differences between a program geared towards men and women, but I wouldn't recommend women follow my men's courses, because the voice and the routine is designed for a certain masculine look, and so I would make subtle differences for women. And Dell's been great to work with, because she is a woman herself, so I can there's certain differences, and so Dell does an amazing job kind of making it more exciting, more compelling for women, giving women the tools to succeed.
Yeah, it's definitely the program that I wish I had when I started, so I didn't have to take so long to get the results I wanted. I could have just have all the stress taken out of it for me, and just known that it doesn't have to be difficult if you just follow the plan and do it in an enjoyable way. So it's something that it's sort of like a program to my past self.
Yeah, and
which I had.
Yeah, and so it's definitely gonna be really. I'm so excited to see the response and everything. We explain exactly why we're doing everything. We cover the strength training, the nutrition to make fat loss as easy as possible, and exactly why that works. Cardio, and how to actually do cardio without causing yourself to get really hungry. How to use cardio in a strategic way to maximize fat loss. We really cover through everything, and we're going to be updating it like every few months. We're going to keep it updated. And also we cover like what to do, because most programs don't talk about this. What do you do if maybe you're a girl that grows a muscle group really easily? Maybe it's your butt, or it's your hamstrings, or it's your shoulders or back. How to avoid, like how to train a muscle if you don't want to get any bigger, but you want to keep firming it up. You just want to keep that strength there, keep that balance there, but you don't want to increase the size. So we cover how to do that, which some guys are interested in, but a lot of women want to know about that. So anyways, it's very, very cool stuff. If you want to check that out further, go to kinobody.com/women. And if you're a guy listening and you want to share this podcast with a female friend, a sister, a girlfriend, well then yeah, definitely do that. That'd be cool. All right, guys, thank you for listening. Great talking to you, Dell, and thank you all for being here and listening to the show. We will talk soon. Bye bye.
See ya.